Coming up, South Korea ties Uruguay in their opening match of the Qatar 2022 World Cup. Fans come to Gwanghwamun Square to cheer for the team. As South Korea aims to boost arms sales overseas, President Yoon vows full government support for the defense industry at an export strategy meeting. Plus, South Korea's parliament has officially begun its 45-day investigation into the deadly Itaewon crowd crush. The two main parties reach a compromise to kick this off. Good morning. Welcome to New Day at Arirang. A moment fans waited for 4 years. South Korea opened its World Cup campaign against Uruguay on Thursday in Qatar. Uruguay, who are currently ranked 14th in the FIFA rankings and were certainly favorites coming into the game, didn't have it all their own way, facing stiff opposition in a close encounter between the Group H rivals. Our Kim Yo-sun leads us off this morning.
It was a tightly contested match. Despite South Korea coming into the game as underdogs based on Uruguay's superior FIFA ranking, the Group H matchup at the Education City Stadium just west of Doha finished scoreless on Thursday. Team Korea's captain Son Heung-min, who wore a black protective mask over his face while he recovers from a facial fracture, put fears over his fitness to rest by playing the full 90 minutes. He even had a chance in the closing moments of the game but dragged his long-range shot just wide. With opportunities scarce, South Korea's best chance came in the 34th minute when a pass found Hwang Lee-jo in space in the box. But he shot over the bar, missing the opportunity to put Team Korea ahead. In a match where the Taeguk Warriors often frustrated the two-time World Cup winners, it was Uruguay that had the best opportunity to score in the 43rd minute when Diego Godin hit the post with a header. Federico Valverde also hit the goalpost in the 89th minute. Following the game, South Korean head coach Paulo Bento said that he was pleased with his team's performance in a competitive match played at a very high level. South Korea will next face Ghana in Group H, while Uruguay will play Portugal, with both games scheduled for next Monday. Kim Yo-sun, Arirang News.
Now, while the game was going on, thousands of people gathered at squares and stadiums around the country last night to cheer for Team Korea. And it's been estimated that 26,000 were at Gwanghwamun Square in central Seoul. Our Ishiu went out to the street cheering at Gwanghwamun and files this report.
Gwanghwamun Square is filled with excitement even hours before South Korea's first match of the 2022 World Cup. Kickoff is at 10 p.m. Korea time, but the Red Devils, the official supporters group of the national football team, opened the square to the public early in the afternoon. People filed in pretty quickly.
We arrived very early because we think there will be a lot of people. Fortunately, we got to sit in the front row, and I think we'll cheer hard from there.
Initially, many of the street cheering events like the one at Gwanghwamun Square had been cancelled following the tragedy in Itaewon late last month. However, the Red Devils submitted a request for the fan zone to the city of Seoul. Their request was approved by the authorities on the condition that they follow safety management measures. The measures taken by the Red Devils include dividing the square into sections to avoid overcrowding. Passageways were also cleared for fire trucks or police cars to pass through if there is an emergency. Around 340 safety personnel have been brought in by the Red Devils, and around 730 police officers are helping manage the crowd.
The Red Devils are often called the 12th Taeguk Warrior, and they have played a crucial role in making street cheering a common South Korean tradition since the 2002 World Cup.
As the kickoff nears, the anticipation grows and cheers get louder.
Nice one, Sonny! Nice one, Son! Nice one,
The excitement reaches fever pitch as the whistle blows for the start of the game. Cheers and sighs fill the air for 90 minutes as South Korea and Uruguay miss their chances to score. A close match between the two countries, the Taeguk Warriors finished off strong, but the game ends in a goalless draw.
I feel great that the players fought well. I want them to stay healthy and avoid injury during the rest of the World Cup.
The Red Devils will be out on the streets again for the next two matches against Ghana on the 28th and Portugal on December 3rd. Lee Si-hoo, Arirang News.
Now we turn to a football writer for analysis and insight into last night's game and South Korea's games to come. We have Steve Han, a journalist who's been tracking the South Korean national team and the World Cup in general. Good afternoon for you.
Thanks for having me again. How's it going?
Good, good. Well, what were some main takeaways from this game, considering it's the first match of the tournament?
You know, I mean, let's be honest. This isn't the result that Korea really wanted, because ultimately we all wanted them to win. You know, that being said, though, you know, the performance today showed that Korea can compete and maybe even step up to the level of a team like Uruguay, a team that when and if they're in form, this is a team capable of reaching the quarterfinals of the World Cup or even higher. And I think what we learned today is that the head coach, Paulo Bento, who has, you know, long been criticized for his stubborn approach of getting Korea to play out of the back, you know, he's more flexible than what we thought after all. You know, Korea played a total of 10 switch passes in this game, and these are passes that travel over a distance of at least 35 meters from one side of the pitch to the other. And every team at the World Cup has now played one game, and Korea is the only team to have hit double digits in playing these switch passes. So if there's anything that this game has shown, first and foremost, it's that Paulo Bento is not obsessed with playing these short, you know, cute little passes out of the back like so many of us accused him of over the past 4 years.
Right, and I want to build on from that. There's a lot of switch passes, but the South Korean team didn't have any attempt on goal. What do you take away from that?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's one of those situations where Korea, when you look at their overall performance, they perform quite well. But it's just that, you know, from them building their attack from defense into the attacking third, it worked quite well. But we all know that, you know, Son Heung-min was fighting off some rust because he hasn't played a competitive game in over 3 weeks. And also a similar situation with the striker Hwang Hee-jo, who was struggling today because he's been struggling for form for a few months now. So Korea lacked a bit of a cutting edge in the final third. But at the same time, the way they played from bottom to top, I don't think Bento could have asked for more from his defenders and also his midfielders.
Right, now let's move on and talk about the games to come. What will South Korea need to focus on in preparation for the match against Ghana on Monday?
You know, for all the praise that Korea is getting right now for their, you know, above average performance against a better team, I guess, you know, the game against Ghana will be completely different. Not because Ghana is an overall better team than Uruguay, but because they're a different style of team altogether. You know, we saw today that the Uruguayan footballers are physical, they're tactically savvy, and they're extremely disciplined. But, you know, Ghana's a different opposition in the sense that they may be just as physical as Uruguay, but while they may not be as tactically savvy as Uruguay, they're faster, and they also take more risks going forward in the attack. So they lost 3-2 to Portugal today, and we saw that Portugal was able to get in behind their defense to attack them in transition. So if Korea can utilize Son Heung-min as well as they did today, and if Son Heung-min comes with the cutting edge that he didn't have today, I kind of like Korea's chances to win this game.
Right, and also let's talk about the other Group H game. What are South Korea's chances of advancing to the next round at this point, with Portugal beating Ghana 3-2?
You know, I think it's all going to come down to whether or not Korea can beat Ghana, because this game against Ghana, it would have been a must-win game for Korea even if they had beaten Uruguay today. So now that they only bagged a point against Uruguay today, this game against Ghana is more or less a do-or-die contest for them. And, you know, that being said, you know, if they beat Ghana, like many of us expect them to, Korea would be putting themselves in a perfect position going into that game against Portugal. It would be a dream scenario for Korea if they can beat Ghana, and on the same day, if Portugal can beat Uruguay. That would be a perfect scenario for Korea, as that would mean that they could even lose to Portugal in the last group game of the group stage and still have the chance to advance to the last 16.
Right. Well, thank you so much for your analysis, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Now, shifting focus, South Korea has quietly become a favorite among arms buyers across the globe. Riding a wave of deals this year, President Yoon seeks to make the country the fourth largest weapons exporter in the world. Our Moon Gun-young has the details.
All hands on deck to make South Korea one of the world's top 4 arms exporters. That's behind only the U.S., Russia, and France. South Korea's President Yoon Suk-yeol hosted a meeting Thursday on promoting weapons exports, pledging to step up efforts to boost defense exports and secure cutting-edge defense technology, his first since taking office in May.
방위 산업은 미래 신성장 동력이자 첨단 산업을 견인하는 중추입니다. 기술 패권 경쟁이 심화되는 가운데 미래전의 게임 체인저급 무기 체계를 개발할 수 있는 기술 경쟁력을 확보해야 합니다.
Yoon called for better research and investment conditions for defense contractors in an ecosystem that can grow on its own by fostering a more export-oriented industry structure. The meeting comes 4 months after South Korea clinched its biggest ever arms deal with Poland, totaling roughly $12.4 billion, which includes exports of tanks and howitzers. A growing number of countries, including Australia and Norway, are seeking to ramp up defense cooperation, which would help bolster South Korea's capability to counter North Korea's threats while contributing to peace and stability in the international community. So far this year, it's inked $17 billion in export contracts, up from a previous record of $7 billion in 2021, which was the first year South Korea's export deals topped imports.
수출 대상국의 교육 훈련과 운영 노하우 전수, 그리고 후속 군수 지원 등 패키지 지원을 적극 추진할 것입니다.
South Korea's sales surge has also been greased by a willingness to manufacture locally and transfer technologies to buyers so they can produce the weapons themselves. Observers say the dramatic growth in arms exports isn't by accident, but rather part of a deliberate strategy with South Korean firms leveraging a combination of high-level deal-making across multiple administrations in Seoul, commercial technology, and favorable government policies. The nation's defense ministry on Thursday backed President Yoon's ambition by stating a goal to carve out a 5% share in the global arms export market by 2027, which would make South Korea the world's 4th largest defense exporter. Moon Gun-young, Arirang News.
The South Korean National Assembly has officially begun its 45-day probe into the Itaewon crowd crush. Talks between the rival parties were drawn out over major sticking points. Our Lee Kyung-eun sheds light on the developments.
It's been a rocky road, but the National Assembly has finally approved a plan for a parliamentary probe into the Itaewon crowd crush that killed 158 people last month during Halloween festivities. The plan is largely based on the last-minute compromise the rival parties struck the previous day. But at Thursday morning's meeting of the newly launched Special Investigation Committee, they had to negotiate again over some key details. At the center of the controversy was the Supreme Prosecutor's Office. The main opposition Democratic Party called for it to be subject to the probe, saying the government's focus on fighting drug crimes contributed in part to the Itaewon crowd crush because the police at the time were focused less on crowd control. But the ruling People Power Party said the claim was politically motivated.
Reforms already took away the prosecution's power to investigate drugs. Furthermore, linking the incident to the government's crackdown on drugs could lead to political war.
We call for members to be guaranteed the freedom to find out the truth about the incident, and we ask for the government's active cooperation when we request documents and testimony.
Previously, at the PPP's request, the DP had called for the probe to be included in the prosecution service in exchange for excluding the Justice Ministry. The final deal does include the prosecution, but only the division in charge of drug crimes. As for the hotly debated presidential office, as previously agreed, it does not include the Presidential Security Service. But it does include the Presidential State Affairs Monitoring Team and the National Crisis Management Center. Altogether, the probe covers 16 agencies and organizations. However, the plan also stated that other organizations may be added if approved by the committee, which could lead to disputes later on. The probe will last for 45 days, which can be extended upon the committee's approval. The actual investigation activities, parliamentary hearings, and on-site inspections will begin after the National Assembly passes next year's budget, which is slated for December 2nd. 이경은, Arirang News.
The European Union says it is pressing ahead with a 9th sanctions package against Russia. European Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen said Thursday that the regional bloc is working full speed to hit Russia hard with fresh sanctions in response to what she called Moscow's barbaric terrorist attack on Ukraine's major infrastructure. She also drew attention to how Ukrainians are forced to endure harsh living conditions following attacks that have led to water and electricity shortages. This comes as the bloc has newly tabled a proposal calling for a price cap on natural gas, which was part of the EU's previous sanctions package against Moscow. A union of contract school workers begins a one-day strike today, calling for wage reform and a safer working environment. The strike comes amid rising concerns over occupational diseases, such as lung cancer linked to school cafeterias. Some 80,000 contract school workers are taking part, threatening to disrupt school meals and daycare programs nationwide. Authorities have announced plans to prepare substitute meals and snacks with shortened classes being run. The union planned to go on strike again in the spring semester if there is no response from authorities. Now, this year marks the 60th anniversary of diplomatic relations between South Korea and Chile. To commemorate the occasion, experts from the two sides held talks on ways to expand ties by exploring a variety of fields from economy to culture. Our Itaewon shares with us what was discussed.
60 years. That's how long South Korea and Chile have been in a diplomatic relationship. And to celebrate the anniversary, related experts ranging from government officials, scholars, and economists to journalists gathered in Seoul on Thursday to discuss ways to expand networks.
The Foreign Ministry aims to expand strategic bilateral talks with South American countries while cooperating in a variety of sectors like investment, trade, and culture. Economic diplomacy, such as supply chain ties, will also be strengthened too. And Chile is the best partner for us to achieve that.
In terms of economic cooperation, Chile's government official highlighted how both countries have been able to establish strong trade relations.
During COVID was a stressful situation between commerce, the logistics, but our authorities trust in each other. So Korea gave a good example of trust and facilitated commerce, and also we try to support that confidence.
There were other topics on the table too, including ways to increase cultural exchanges. One former student from the Pontifical Catholic University of Chile who wrote a thesis on K-pop in Latin America says open-mindedness is needed.
I think it's important for Chileans to be more open about new cultures and accept them in their own communities. This will also benefit the relationship between the two countries. This is steadily processing in Chile's society today.
South Korea's government has worked to enhance its collaborations with Chile as Prime Minister Han Duck-soo signed an MOU for bilateral cooperation on mining and mineral resources last month. MOUs for research cooperation in agricultural technologies and democratic talks were also signed between the two countries. Lee Dae-hyun, Arirang News.
For a look at the news from around the world, we now turn to our Matthew Ashley, standing by at the Arirang newsroom. Good morning.
Good morning, Doyon.
Let's get the latest updates on the Qatar 2022 World Cup, where Portugal got off to a winning start with a 3-2 win against Ghana.
Well, that is right, and fans watching the match at Stadium 974 saw history being made when Portugal captain Cristiano Ronaldo became the first footballer to score in 5 World Cups. Now, he scored a penalty in the 65th minute to give Portugal the lead, but Ghana equalized just 8 minutes later, scoring the first goal for an African side at this World Cup. Now, Portugal's response was another 2 goals that came just 2 minutes apart. Ghana got a goal back late in the second half, but couldn't level the game. Now, favourite for the tournament, Brazil was victorious in its first match of the World Cup against Serbia. The match at Lusail Stadium featured the final 2 teams to kick off their opening match at the tournament. The first half was goalless, with Brazil creating few scoring chances, but the 5-time World Cup winners took things up a notch in the second half. Richarlison gave Brazil the lead, scoring off a rebound from Serbia's keeper in the 62nd minute. But it didn't stop there, as Richarlison kept up the momentum to score Brazil's second goal in the 73rd minute with a stunning bicycle kick. Now, Switzerland got off to a good start in its World Cup campaign, securing a 1-0 win over Cameroon. In doing so, Switzerland remain undefeated in their last 6 opening group games at the World Cup. Equally matched in possession and goal chances, the game's only goal came from Cameroon-born Swiss player Briel Embolo in the 48th minute. Switzerland, motivated by their lead, continued to press and were denied first by Cameroon's goalkeeper and then their defence when Switzerland's Haris Seferovic came close in injury time. The result marks Cameroon's 8th consecutive defeat at the World Cup, increasing the pressure ahead of their next match against Serbia. And finally, taking a quick look at some of the upcoming World Cup fixtures. The second round of group matches are next as teams from Groups A and B continue their World Cup campaigns. First up on Friday is the Group B match between Wales and Iran at 7 p.m. Korea time. Then host Qatar is up against Africa's top team, Senegal, in Group A at 10 p.m. The Netherlands then takes on Ecuador in Group A at 1 a.m. before a return to Group B for the highly anticipated 4 a.m. match where England go up against the USA.
Good morning. Well, we won't be complaining much about the temperatures today either. More above normal temperatures in store. Just beware of wide temperature gaps and do dress accordingly. Meanwhile, those in western parts of the country will see high levels of dust during the first half of the day today. And afternoon highs will be 1 to 7 degrees higher than norms in most parts, topping out at 16 degrees Celsius here in the capital, 18 degrees in Daegu and Daejeon this afternoon. It's a partly sunny morning, but we'll see more clouds as we head into the afternoon. Then there will be light rain in the west of central regions in Jeollabuk-do province from late this afternoon into tomorrow dawn. Well, precipitation will be less than 5 millimeters, but will bring a brief cold snap to the country on Saturday and into Sunday morning. Then rain early next week will drag morning temperatures down to as low as -5 degrees on the last day of November, and there will be an even colder start to December. With that in mind, here's a look at the weather conditions around the globe.
And that wraps up today's New Day at Arirang. We'll be back next week for our Monday's edition at the same time. Please stay with Arirang News though for more updates throughout the day. Have a lovely day or evening wherever you are, and take care.
부산항에 그리운 내 형제